In 1970, Plymouth built a convertible muscle car so powerful and so expensive that almost nobody bought one. Out of roughly 55,000 Barracudas that rolled off the assembly line that year, only 14 buyers in the entire world ordered the most extreme combination the company offered, a Hemi Cuda convertible. The sticker price was around $4,371. Today, that same car sells for $2.5 to $3.5 million at auction. One owner recently turned down a bid of $4.8 million because it wasn't enough. Jay Leno called it the holy grail of muscle cars. And this is the story of how the most unwanted Plymouth ever built became the single most valuable American muscle car in history. To understand why this car exists, you have to start with an engine. In 1963, Chrysler was getting embarrassed on the NASCAR circuit. Their 426 wedge engine couldn't keep up with Pontiac and Ford. So they gave engineer Tom Hoover a single mission: build an engine powerful enough to win the 1964 Daytona 500. He had less than a year. Hoover's team revived a concept Chrysler had abandoned in the 1950s: the hemispherical combustion chamber. The dome-shaped design allowed for larger valves, better airflow, and a more complete fuel burn than any conventional engine. They engineered these heads onto the 426 block, and what emerged was a monster: the 426 Hemi. So physically enormous that rival teams nicknamed it the Elephant. But the Hemi almost never made it to the starting line. 2 weeks before Daytona, testing revealed the cylinder walls were too thin to survive 500 miles of racing. A team of Chrysler engineers flew to the Indianapolis foundry and worked through the night, hand-rubbing sand from the casting cores to strengthen the blocks. The first 12 they poured were unusable. With Speed Week already underway, they scrambled, adjusted, and finally cast enough good blocks just days before the race. February 23, 1964, Daytona International Speedway. Richard Petty, a 26-year-old from North Carolina, fired up his Hemi-powered Plymouth Belvedere in front of 82,000 fans and proceeded to lead 184 of 200 laps. Plymouth swept first, second, and third place. Petty won by more than a full lap, averaging over 154 miles per hour. He later said the engine felt like it was going to suck the air cleaner right through the exhaust pipe. NASCAR's response was unprecedented. They changed the rules, requiring all racing engines be available in production vehicles. Since the Hemi had no street version, it was banned. Chrysler boycotted the entire 1965 season in protest. But Chrysler had a plan. If NASCAR demanded a street version, they would build one. And in doing so, they unleashed something far more dangerous than a race engine. The 1966 Street Hemi produced 425 horsepower, numbers Ford and General Motors couldn't match. Richard Petty returned to NASCAR and immediately won the Daytona 500 again. The 426 Hemi became the most feared option code in any American dealership, powering Roadrunners, Chargers, Challengers, and Barracudas. But it came with a brutal surcharge of $871, nearly a third of the car's base price. And insurance companies charged premiums so high they could rival the monthly payment itself. Most buyers chose the cheaper 440 and saved a fortune. Then in 1970, Plymouth introduced the redesigned Barracuda on the E-body platform. Designer John Hurlitz created a masterpiece with a long hood, short deck, and muscular hips. The wider engine bay was deliberately built to fit the massive Hemi. Plymouth went wild with the options, offering high-impact colors named Plum Crazy, Vitamin C Orange, Lemon Twist, and Sassy Grass Green. The Shaker hood scoop was mounted directly to the engine, physically vibrating at idle, giving the car a menacing, almost living presence. Motor Trend tested the Hemi Cuda, 0 to 60 in 5.8 seconds, quarter mile in 14 flat at 102 miles per hour. In 1970, those numbers were staggering, but ordering a Hemi Cuda convertible required a special kind of bravery. The base Cuda convertible started around $3,400. The Hemi pushed it past $4,300. Insurance could add $1,500 more per year. The convertible body was heavier, structurally weaker, and the entire convertible market was dying across America. The math scared everyone away. By the end of 1970, Plymouth had built 652 Hemi Cuda hardtops, but the convertible? Just 14. 14 cars in the entire world. In 1971, only 7 more were made before emissions regulations killed the 426 Hemi forever. The total production of Hemi Cuda convertibles would stand at 21 for all of eternity. And then for nearly 2 decades, almost nobody cared. Through the oil crisis and the bland cars of the 1980s, muscle cars fell out of fashion. Hemi Cudas sat in garages, rusted in fields, and changed hands for modest sums. But by the late 1990s, collectors finally understood what they were looking at. Craig Jackson, CEO of Barrett Jackson Auctions, bought his 1970 Hemi Cuda convertible in 1999 for just over $100,000. Today, it's estimated at $2 to $3 million. The auction records are staggering. In 2014, a 1971 Hemi Cuda convertible with a 4-speed manual sold at Mecum, Seattle for $3.5 million, the all-time record for a factory American muscle car. In 2021, another received a bid of $4.8 million, but the owner refused to sell. The reserve was reportedly $6.5 million. The most fascinating case is a single lemon twist yellow 1970 model that's been auctioned 3 times in 5 years. It sold for $1.98 million in 2019, $2.145 million in January 2024, and $2.53 million in August 2024 at Mecum, Monterey. Each sale set a new record. That car appreciated over $500,000 in 5 years. It's no longer a collector car, it's an investment asset. Peter Klutt of Legendary Motor Car, who has restored several of these cars, compared them to the Bugatti Royales of the muscle car world. Jay Leno agreed, calling the Hemi Cuda convertible the one car that sits above all others in American muscle. The irony is perfect. The 1970 Hemi Cuda convertible was too expensive, too impractical, and too powerful for its own good. Every factor that scared buyers away is exactly what created its astronomical value. The punishing cost meant fewer orders. The dying convertible market meant fewer still. And the brief 2-year window before emissions killed the Hemi meant no more could ever exist. Someone who spent $4,371 at a Plymouth dealership in 1970 now owns a car worth roughly 800 times what they paid. That is one of the greatest returns on any physical asset in American history. Today, these 14 cars are scattered across private collections. They are rarely seen, almost never driven, and when one appears at auction, it draws bidders willing to spend millions for a car that nobody wanted. The 426 Hemi was an engine built to win a single race at Daytona in 1964. It was cast from hand-rubbed molds in an Indianapolis foundry by engineers who feared the blocks would crack. That desperate engine dominated NASCAR so completely, it was banned. And when Chrysler dropped a street version into the most beautiful convertible Plymouth ever made, almost nobody bought one. 60 years later, the 14 people who did are sitting on millions.